Welcome back there, buds. Next on the bench is a little vanity and bench. This was brought to me by a lady who has owned this most of her life. Now she wants to make it look new again and hand it down to her daughter. So what we're going to do is strip all this paint off, find out what's underneath. We're going to give it a nice dark finish, and we're going to reupholster that seat with a gray fabric. So let's get in and take a closer look at it here. Looks to be just somebody had reupholstered this years ago, probably when they painted it. I have a feeling that this definitely does not match that table. We have some veneer chipping off the back. Probably another reason why they painted it. It's all pretty loose. We'll have to re-glue it all, knock it apart. And then here's the table. The top has just been painted who knows how many times. Hopefully there's no veneer under there and it's just solid, or that veneer is probably done for. And then we have a little drawer at the front. Doesn't really open. All the legs, everything very loose. Get it all knocked apart. Get it all back together, re-glued. First, I always like to just strip that top and see what we're working with. Alright buds, here we go. A nice thick coat of the quick strip. It is the 15-minute. Can pick it up anywhere. It's nothing special, fancy. It's just all in how you use it. Get it on thick. Keep it wet. And let it sit and do its job. Can't rush it. Time for the big reveal. Maybe not. A lot more paint on there than I thought, so we'll have to do another round of stripper. You can just see the layer after layer under there. Well, that table is never going to strip down. We're going to be here all day and all night. So I got the sander out, and I wanted to sand that back edge just to make 100% sure that that wasn't a veneer on top, and it doesn't appear to be. So I will just now take that sander, just get the rest of that paint off of there. One other thing I decided to do on this piece that I normally wouldn't is refinish the whole drawer. And it came apart very easily, so I figured I would also be able to re-glue it, make it much more sturdy. But they have painted the entire inside and outside of the drawer. Then when I got to knock that apart, sanded just one of the sides. That wood looks so nice. So I will just sand and refinish that whole drawer, especially since there's only one. Why not do that, you know? You know, bud? After gluing that up and letting it sit overnight, I'd say that drawer looks much better. Now I need to figure out how to get this drawer. As you can see, there's no slider, there's no nothing anywhere to get that drawer to slide as it should. It's just kind of all over the place. So I'm going to take this top off. It's just screwed on, and then we can get a closer look and figure out how that we can customize that drawer to get it to you know, just be smoother and just go in and out. So once I got that top off there, it was pretty easy to see that somebody had been in here before and repaired this. It looked like they just had popped that top off, tried some corrugated fasteners there to try to get it tightened up a bit, but really all they did was just ended up breaking the wood and never got those legs very tight. Glue is the only thing that will do that. This was in here like this without any glue or anything, and I couldn't figure out what this board was on that underside. Well, if you look closely, you can see that there had been something glued there, and it matches up exactly with that. So originally on either side, that board with that little, I guess like that little cleat, that little slider, it was on either side, and that would keep that drawer from, you know, going crazy when you pulled it in and out. So I will just have to make another one of these and get those two glued in on each side how it was originally, so that drawer can get back to normal. Now that I got this cut out, I just need to glue up. And spread that around just a little. And find a good smooth side. Just kind of hard to do because my table saw cuts like a hacksaw. So if anybody has a recommendation on a new table saw, please let me know. Just squeeze that out a bit. And good as new. Next on the list here is to sand the bottom of that top, because that is a bit of a disgrace. That looks a little bit better. And if I had to bet, I would say that this had one of those blonde finishes on it originally. Kind of like how you see a lot of that Lane furniture from mid-century. It always has that blonde type of very opaque finish on, just because that's not standing out at all. So I'm thinking that maybe they had come in and, not sure their process for that finish, but it almost looks like something was brushed and then you could see where something was sprayed too. Get a lot of that speckle. So who knows? But usually you can tell a lot by the underside of a piece. And while we're at it here, let's address that little piece on that underside that we needed to repair. Wasn't sure if I should cut it out and put new wood, but it's such a minor little break. I think I can just first, I'm just gonna try to just scar it up a bit with a razor knife and prepare it for some filler. And it's on the underside, and this will be a dark finish, and nobody will ever know except for you and me and a few other people. Okay. Paint off. Looks pretty good. So a pretty good filler that I usually like to use, especially when I have a little bit more of a larger area. This is basically Bondo, but it has more of a brown gray color that easily touches up instead of the typical blue or red that the auto body Bondo would have. It's just not colored. So get a little bit of that on a little bit of that with a little bit of that, and you mix it and you just spread it on, and it dries very quickly and is sandable in probably about 20 minutes. So we'll do that now. Set up about 5 minutes now, and it is still pretty tacky, but not fully, you know, I mean, that dries hard as a rock. So let me show you a little trick here. If you take a straight razor, just want to just bend it just a little bit. So then when this is still tacky, you can easily take a razor and just cut it. Because when that dries, especially if you're working with larger areas, when that dries, it's hard as a rock and it takes forever to sand. So doing this when it's still tacky saves you a little bit of time with sanding. And then that right there is what it will look like once it's all sanded. As I'm getting this knocked apart here, you can see the original finish. It is just that blonde with a little bit of speckle. It almost looks like they painted on and then spray something over top of it with a little bit of a speckle. Well, that is everything sanded down with a 60 grit on the disc sander, and then I just have a little bit of stripping to do. Some of those details there, so we'll just get the stripper on that and use the old sawdust trick to clean that out with a brush. Now that I let that sit there for about 15-20 minutes, we got our little container of old leftover sawdust. And then what I do is just take this brush, get a good healthy dose, maybe even just put a little bit on there, and just start scrubbing it. And that will just help to soak up that finish and that stripper, and then clean up pretty easy. All you do then is just sweep that sawdust away and you're pretty good to go. I know with this finish on here, I'll probably have to do at least 2 passes, but this is definitely a lot better than sitting there and trying to pick it out with a scraper or anything. So I'll just get these cleaned up and then go from there. And 2 passes with stripping and picking. I got them pretty good and clean enough. I'll just clean up the rest now with 150 grit sandpaper and get this glued back together. Now it's just time to get that little bench. I got that all knocked apart, and I'm just sanding all those pieces, and might have to do a little bit of stripping as well. But the back on that has a pretty nice veneer. Just have to get it cleaned up a little more, get that paint out of there. So I'm just going to finish sanding this and then we'll get that glued up. That is all stripped and rough sanded now, ready to assemble. Usually what I will do is just a quick dry fit just to make sure everything goes back together okay. And somebody had asked me how I label things. Most times I won't label it because I mean, once you put 1,000 chairs together, you kind of know what goes where. But something like this with this many pieces, sometimes I will label, and I just wanted to show you, like this is a back or a bottom stretcher here. And what I will do, just like on that little tenon where it will be hidden again by the glue, I'll write left LF for left front so I know it goes there, and then I'll know LR is left rear, and then like same on that left leg, put LF. And like those back legs, I just write L and R, and I'll usually label it by just facing the chair, my left facing the chair, or I mean, do it however you want, just remember which one it was. And then, yeah, I mean, just some of those, an RF, so I know that is right front, and same on all those. So that's just a quick, easy way. Another way you could do, you know, This, this whole area, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, however works for you. So I'm just gonna dry fit this now and then get it glued up. Well, here's everything dry fitted back together, and it all worked and went together nicely. And I'm sure you're probably saying, but why the extra step? Isn't that a waste of time? And trust me, it's much more frustrating and a lot more time if you are gluing this up without knowing if it's going back together, or if you mislabeled something or are missing something and that glue's starting to set up and you have to knock it apart again, which I have done many times, and it is a bitch. So, and you probably also say, well, what if you accidentally break something? Well, as my best bud's pap always said at a car garage, if it doesn't go, force it. And if it breaks, it was meant to be fixed anyways. So let's get this torn apart and get some glue on it. All right, buds, we got everything rested overnight. All that glue is set up. Everything's nice and solid. Nothing needs to be re-glued. Just a little bit of touch up here and there with a little bit of filler. I like to use this, I think it's a latex-based wood filler for interior use only. And that dries quick. Get it on your fingers and it washes right off, a little bit of water even. So then just got to clean out any of that leftover glue there and any of these joints that might have seeped out when clamping. So I just give it a quick squirt with this diluted 1-to-1 Windex to water mix and give that a second to rest. Pick it out there with a chisel or a knife. You don't have to get too perfect with it. Then what I'll do is hit everything on the flats, usually 150 grit on the disc. Then just come back around, block it out with the 150 by hand, because I'm sure all of you are familiar with those little pigtail swirlies that you get from a sander. Just follow it up with the same grit real quick. That'll get rid of any of that. Then some of the flats I like to take a 220 just to get it just a little bit fine-tuned, a little bit smoother. And that's it. Then we'll be ready for stain. I'm gonna get to working on this. Well, there it is, all sanded down to 220. And ready for stain, so let's talk stain. The stains that I will be using on this specific piece are these Vanity brand wood stains. I'm by no means being paid to tell you this. A lot of you say, what? You tell me what products you use. So this is what I prefer. My personal professional opinion. Steer clear of Minwax. Never dries, it's always gummy, very oily. I've ruined more finishes and had to redo the finish. It's a nightmare. This is the closest to any professional stain I've ever used. It's great, and Home Depot sells it. It's cheap, it's great, works great, dries great, recommend it. So I got a darker red and a darker brown. I mixed 6 ounce to 6 ounce, 6 ounce, 1-to-1. And then I gave it 2 ounces of the old trusty naphtha, and that's just to thin it, get a little bit more out of the stain, as well as it'll just flow out a little bit better, I think, and dry a little faster. Some people will tend to use mineral spirits for thinning, but that's oily in nature to begin with, and that might prolong your dry times, and that naphtha is actually going to maybe help to speed up the dry time. So guess that's it. Let's stain. Well, with everything stained, all that we can do now is let it dry, and you know what time that is. Time for Bucko's hike. Thought I'd bring you guys out to our new official favorite spot, huh, Buck? Bucko has never really liked to swim or play in the water, but it seems that he really does love this pond out here, so can't beat that sky today. This is beautiful. Come on, Buck. Come on. All right, let's get in a good run. Let's get in a good run. Ready to see blast off? Here, sit. 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 Bucko. 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 All right, you ready? Get set. You ready for this? Okay, okay. Wrong way. There is no wrong way, Bucko. You do. You do you. Sure is amazing out here. That sky. A lot of cotton candy clouds today there, Buck. Are you swimming? Buck, you don't know how to swim, do you? Oh, a little bit. We're going in, butts. Let's see if we can see these guys. Alright, Buck, come on, bud. It's time to go home. We'll be back. We'll be back again another day.
Up out there, we are with the Lowest Spray Day. As usual, we got this creek down like right there, the bottom two. We're going to hit the bottom, then flip it down, we'll do a top. Let that driver say the button, we're going to talk to the pre-cap lecture. So here we go. Alright, bud, now we got that ball track. We're going to flip her out. We hit the top. What the hell is that now?
Now that that sealer has had a chance to set up and dry, you can feel all that fuzziness to it, the roughness. What you want to do is you get a little block, I'm going to smooth that out, flatten that out with some 400 grit, follow that up with that fine scuff pad to achieve results as smooth as
my belly button.
Well, buds, there we are with another one done. I'm sure you notice that the seat is upholstered. I created a separate video for that. The link will be in the description as well as at the end of this video. the top, I think everything turned out pretty good. I'll give you a close-up here in a second. The only other thing I had to do, give that drawer just a little bit of paste wax on those runners. But overall, I think it turned out all right. Hopefully you picked up a trick or two from me and I could lend a hand in one of your projects. So, as always, if you like what you see, give me a like and a comment and a share. Make sure you're subscribed and you're ringing that bell so you can follow along with all the future updates. As always, thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.